Hey, friend. Some work is innovative and some work is restorative. This is a word that came up on a podcast recording. And I like it because there's this emphasis from a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, that everything needs to be about innovation. We need to create new things constantly. And that's increasingly difficult to do. In fact, by some estimations, there's 100 million creators on YouTube. 100 million. I don't think it's even possible to wrap our minds around how many that is. That's a lot of content. And a lot of it is duplicated. People are saying the same things. For all I know, somebody else is saying this exact thing at this moment. With this idea that we always need to innovate comes a certain pressure that we have to create something new constantly. And yet, there are many things that don't have to be made new. In fact, there are things that we've gotten away from in our culture, in our work, that we could restore. And perhaps that would be better. Think of the tendency to be disconnected right now. There's a lot of work from home, there's a lot of Slack channels, a lot of instant messaging. Our youth don't regularly gather together and just simply have conversations. In fact, if you look across many schools, people when they're gathered together in these schools, sometimes it's just a bunch of kids on their phones. They're not having real relationships. And I get it. Somebody's going to rail against that. That's a real relationship. I understand. But there's a depth that's lost. In fact, what is it? Something like 70% of communication is nonverbal. It's how you say it, it's how you show up to that moment. It's not just what you say. And all of that is lost when we're simply texting one another. So, no wonder that people have a hard time relating to one another. We don't actually know each other, and people have all sorts of anxieties around things that we didn't used to have anxieties about because we just had to deal with it. We were there with those people. The hard edges of our personalities sort of just got knocked off because they had to be. We didn't demand acceptance from everybody. We just knew, boy, I'm not showing up right in this space and I need to shape up. I could be better. I could change to get along with people. Now we're just like, hey, you don't like what I'm saying? I demand that you do or say that you do. It's a bit ridiculous. Could we restore spaces where our kids could have real deep relationships with friends or other families? Wouldn't that be valuable? It's not especially innovative, but it is restorative and it brings us back to something that we've lost. Some would say that, well, we don't want to restore things because we always want to have things that are progressive. Yeah, maybe. But there were simpler times. There were times when we could just go on vacation and there were no cell phones. We could just be with each other, have long meals together. People don't have long meals together by and large. Now the televisions are on, the telephones are out. Telephone, see, look, the phones are out. In fact, I have a friend that went over to his house some time ago, and the kids that were maybe 5 at the time had tablets out around the table. Tablets around a dinner table? That's not relationship. How would those kids know how to exist in a world if from a very young age they just have a phone and a tablet, even in a space where, boy, we used to just gather and end the day, kind of bring ourselves back to home around that table? Wouldn't that be restorative? It's not especially innovative, but how valuable could that be? So, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a human being, do we have to constantly press for innovation? What could we or should we be doing that is restorative in nature and makes us more connected, better people, more able to get along with one another, healthier relationships, happier homes. What needs to be restored and how could you help that? Be your best friend today.